Well, okay. We are going to continue with part two of the moon in Sagittarius, and we are going to jump right in. We are still talking about the basics of the moon sign in Sagittarius. We talked about the moodiness, not tolerating bullshit, or also a sob story. We talked about the fact that they're very open-hearted, they're very optimistic. Both qualities can be contagious. They are not very patient when it deals with your victim story. We talked about that. Um, the other thing that we now are gonna jump right in about it is that they can be very blunt and say things that can be very, very offensive, even though they are very known for blurting out what's on their mind. You know, and that can unnerve people. And the reason why it will unnerve you is because it's kind of true. It's kind of true. So if it's true, you can't fight it. Because Sagittarius don't really lie. They really don't lie. So, how are you going to defend yourself based on an objective honesty that they perceive of you? There's no way to fight it. You're going to have to, maybe you can put a front and pretend that it doesn't bother you. And then in quiet contemplation, you'll be crying like a little bitch because it's true. But then what are you going to do? What can you do? I'm looking for my lighter. And I went and I bought a new lighter because my old lighter wasn't working. So now I can't find my lighter. Alrighty. So understand that the blur and bluntness of Sagittarius, not many people can handle. It's quite some doing, to handle that. So, a lot of people don't know when the Sagittarian man or woman, moon sign, and also the sun sign, don't know when they're going to snap or say something that might really offend a person to the point where there's no coming back from it. And that happens to a lot of Sagittarians. They say shit and you can't come back from it. So then what do you do? What can you do? What can you do? I'm not meant to do this because that's not the lighter that I bought. And I cannot find it. When that occurs, it's usually by design. And that's how the gods control what goes on. So, yeah, and I gotta do this. So that's not gonna happen. I have to content myself with the drink. So understand that the need for truth and to expose someone's truth has no filter when it comes to the moon in Sagittarius. So they're very legendary about this, blurting shit out. Whatever you think of Donald Trump, for example, or Newt Gingrich, or Ronald Reagan, these people can be very expository in their communication, in their delivery, no? And they always hit the target. And it could be so subtle and so insidious, but they're gonna get their point across. They're gonna get their point across. And that often doesn't work well with people. Because, human nature is designed to hide behind the veil. But when it comes to the moon in Pisces and the moon in Sagittarius, that energy of Pisces, with the moon in Pisces, begins in Sagittarius. You know, the beginning of perception, and perception in Sagittarius, with a Sagittarius moon, begins to reach a certain level that goes beyond perception and goes into the human emotions. And here is where we see the highest elevation and expression of the soul. It begins in Sagittarius. It becomes a form of initiation in Capricorn. And then it reaches divinity in Pisces. It goes to a little station point in Aquarius, but it ultimately goes towards the level of surrender and renunciation. And hence we begin a new cycle with the moon entering Aries. Okay? Understand that these are phases of development. And there are 28 lunar phases. And I might have to do a series about it. You know? And they're different than the moon phases. The moon sign. The moon sign is different than the moon phases. And the moon phases also reveals a lot of information. So I understand that if you are going to be, how can I put it? If you're going to be candid, well-versed and well-known and educated and well-traveled, because it all comes with it, you have to then develop a certain finesse when it comes to delivery of the knowledge that you accumulate throughout your travels. And the travels don't happen just physically. The people with the moon in Sagittarius can go through mental travel. And their mental travel can be just as fascinating and as fulfilling as actually physically getting on a plane and going somewhere. So understand that the Sagittarian traveler, this occurs not just physically but also in the mind. You have many Sagittarians that can travel mentally. My Mars in my birth chart is in Sagittarius. And let me tell you, some of my best experiences, including sex, have been mental. It's a whole different reality where the physical body is not even necessary. Okay? This is a high level of adepthood when you reach Sagittarius. It begins in Scorpio. And Scorpio is self-contained. But it's externalized in Sagittarius. And it is raw energy. And then it becomes concentrated and refined in Capricorn. So understand that the moon in Sagittarius, it is the, if you can use one word to define it, it is the bursting forward of energy. And I'm not differentiating between a man and a woman moon in Sagittarius, because there's still too much to cover on a broad sense before separating the two. I might not be able to do that. You might have to pay for a consultation if you have the moon in Sagittarius, where I can go more detailed and more specific, because it really is quite different. You know, we're dealing with mutable fire. The moon is in mutable fire. So there's no way to categorize and catalog a human experience in that kind of capacity. It really does become splinters of different varieties. And there's no way to cover that on 2, 3, 4, even 10 videos with the moon in Sagittarius. So for those of you who have the moon in Sagittarius and you want to know more, you're going to have to be consulted professionally by me to go into your specific situation. This is one of those moon signs and also moon phases where it's so complex and so varied and so varied that it is going to require the specific attention of an astrologer to look at your particular chart and delineate that for you. It cannot be done on a general basis on a video. So I'm going to try my best to break it down as many categories as possible. But it is quite a daunting task. Understand that Sagittarius is not a politically correct sign. Why? Because it has no filter. There's no political posturing when it comes to the moon in Sagittarius. These people are blunt, diabolically honest about you. Not so much about themselves, but about you. And if you're not strong mentally, psychologically, these people can rip you into shreds with the truth that they perceive about you. That's some shit to handle, let me tell you. But this is the moon in Sagittarius. It's very impartial as well. And there's a level of authority and severity that can spring forward at any moment. There is an intellectual arrogance, a knowingness. Remember, this is Zeus, the king of the gods. Who dare argue and challenge Zeus, the king of the gods? And in the Greek Hellenistic world, we call him Zeus, but he goes by many names today. Well, you know, I've already covered that, right? Tova. Okay? It's all the same. It's all the same. Don't be fooled now. So, we have to interpret the coming of the ages according to the times. You know? According to the times. Because the gods evolve through every millennium and every epoch and every age and every time. So, it's a different cloak, but it's the same principle. You get me? So understand that with the moon in Sag, you kind of live a life that's in a bubble. A life that's in a bubble. Because the moon in Sagittarius orientation is governed by an autocratic reality. An autocratic reality. What do I mean by autocratic? Meaning that it's what he feels, is what he thinks, is what he says. And that's all that matters. That's all that matters. So understand that if you have the moon in Sag, you can be so egocentric. You can be you can almost have a mentality that's that of an oligarch or a Kremlin mentality. And there's no arguing with you. There is no challenging you. With the moon in Sag, the opinions are so fucking strong. So strong. I know people with the moon in Sag who have destroyed people, pulverized them with the power of their opinions. Because God forbid that you challenge someone's opinion who has the moon in Sagittarius. Oh my God. Oh my God. Talk about bombastic and opinionated and arrogant. Symbols that are attributed to the fire signs. Beginning with Aries, the worst of the worst. The sign, you know. And then, of course, Leo, the narcissist. It doesn't get any better. And then we go to Sag, the arrogant, opinionated narcissist. Bombastic, but very charming. Like Libra, very hard to be upset with the Sagittarian man or woman because they're so sweet. Oh my God. So sweet. It gives you a cavity. But the bluntness, it tastes like castor oil going down. Yeah. Because it's usually the truth. And very few people can handle the truth now. Especially the way Sagittarius can deliver it. You know, like a curveball. If you don't know how to bat a curveball, it'll split the bat or it'll be a foul. If you know anything about baseball. So understand that with the moon in Sagittarius, there's a precision of accuracy, of perception when it comes to figuring who's around them. That there is no way that they are going to, that you are going to escape their radar should they detect something about you that's wrong. Remember, Sagittarius rules the eyes. I see. Sagittarians see you. They see you. They can see right into the soul. This is perfected in Scorpio, the infrared vision, you know, that stare. But then it's so raw that it frightens people. But in Sagittarius, it becomes refined. So he can be very... Scorpio is like this, but Sagittarius is like this. The rawness of Scorpio becomes refined in Sagittarius. And they see you. And with that, they can make all kinds of assessments about you. And if you're not receptive to pick it up and figure it out, they'll figure you out before you know what to say. Okay. It's time to re-up. I always re-up before it goes too down. Okay. There we go. My exotic martini, I've already finished. So now I just got my little waters, you know, and a little Polish vodka. Pour a little bit, put a little cinnamon, put a little ginger to make it a little healthy. I'm going to go to the gym after I finish doing this video, and, you know, and be on my way. Okay, so understand that there's fire signs going on another topic. The fire signs are very intuitive. And when they deliver the truth, it's like a bomb. Okay, understand? Understand? This energy and this bluntness and ruthlessness begins in Scorpio, and becomes refined somewhat in Sagittarius, where that now the truth that Scorpio holds about you and doesn't say anything to you. Now Sagittarius, the next time over, he now says the truth. And that could kill you or destroy you if you're not strong enough. Making Sagittarius more accountable. The fixed signs contain. The mutable signs externalize, but they can also contain. They can play both. And that's the essence of cardinality. The ability to be able to do both. Okay? Be active and then be inactive, or both. Okay? So we see this active flux in the moon in Sagittarius. Okay. I mentioned in part 1 that the moon in Sagittarius, especially by secondary progression in the horoscope, in the birth chart, signals towards a impending crisis. Impending crisis. And when you are reaching an impending crisis, everything falls apart. I mean, everything falls apart. And there's nothing you can do to stop it. You are reaching a point of transition. Remember, Sagittarius is number 9. You've been through 9 signs of the zodiac. How many are left? to your left before the ending of your life occurs, or the ending of a major cycle, which can put you on another station in life that you've never seen yourself. A perfect example is the woman who marries, has children, she raises her children, they go away to college, they get married, have children, she becomes a grandmother. These are phases. Then her husband dies. Now she's alone. Now begins a new phase in her life as a single widow. She might be in her 50s or in her 60s. Women outlive their husbands, right? So what is she going to do? Is she going to end up being an old crone and await her own death so that she can join her husband? Or is she going to reinvent herself, do a makeup, color her hair, date men? She's never been with any other men but her husband. She might go out and maybe if she's a white woman, she might date a black guy. And she's never had one. Or a Latin guy. Or if it's a black woman, maybe she'll date a white dude. She's never been with a white man. These are major phases. Or she might end up being in an alternate relationship. Life can take you to many phases and in many directions. These powerful phases of diversity and direction, which is contrary or to the prior life that you've known, begins in Sagittarius with the moon in Sagittarius, a major transition in the cycle. So if you find yourself in a major cycle, when you enter the progress or the secondary progression of the moon in Sagittarius, you are usually in your 50s. You are approaching your second Saturn return. And here, you might be going into a crisis. Someone might die in your life. Your mother, your dad. You remember, you're in your 50s. How long do you think your parents are going to live? You have to go through these experiences of losing and loss. And these powerful periods in the cycle of the humanity begins with the moon in Sagittarius. It is the physical transitioning. This same transition occurs mentally when the moon enters Libra. Here we see another transitory phase, but it is an intellectual transition versus the physical manifestation that leads to a physical transition where we have the moon in Sagittarius. While we enter the moon in Sagittarius, we are approaching the ending of a major cycle in your life. You are approaching midlife. And now, your parents are dead. I'm 51. I'm going through that transition right now. My parents are dead, but way dead, way gone. I have siblings that have died. Family, I've been in relationships that are come and gone. I'm in a relationship now. Who's going to outlive, my partner might outlive me, or I might outlive him. These are the major transitions that occurs with the moon in Sagittarius. It is definitely a transition of crisis. And the crisis is painful because you're losing what you knew and you don't have a prospect of what's coming. So you're left in a limbo. So this is something that can be quite daunting and quite terrifying to come to grips. It is a powerful cycle that frightens many people because there's no way to stop it and there's no way to understand what's happening to you and there's no prospect of being rescued. You are completely immersed in the eye of the storm when you are born with the moon in Sagittarius. These internal crises that occur when you start reaching age 49, 50, 51, is because you're entering a transition phase, which demands total surrendering and abandonment of what you knew to begin to clear the slate for the new cycle that is coming to prepare you for the initiation that will occur when the moon enters Capricorn. And we're done with this segment.